from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to again strike funding out of the National Defense Authorization Act. The National Defense Authorization Act is an important funding bill for the United States of America, not for any other country. And the American people are fed up and tired of the hard-earned tax dollars that they pay to our government being spent in foreign lands and foreign countries for foreign causes and foreign people. To be against funding for war is not pro-Russia, it's pro-America and pro-Americans and pro our own American border. I'd like to talk about this feasibility study for creating a center of excellence in Ukraine by reminding the House today that there are approximately 40,000 homeless veterans in America today. These are men and women who served our country, served to defend our national security, but yet they are living homeless on the streets. Our National Defense Authorization Act should only fund the Department of Defense for the defense of our country. And again, I'll state the mission statement as stated on the Department of Defense website. The mission stands to deter war and to protect our nation's national security. By engaging in paying for a feasibility study of creating a center of excellence in Ukraine, that does not deter war, nor does that protect our national security interest. But I would like to talk about the people that we should care about, the people we should be spending our American tax dollars for. One of them is a man named Mike Reynolds. Mike lives in my district, and Mike is a veteran that served our country. Mike has a brain injury that he sustained serving the United States of America in our military. Mike did not get help from Veteran Affairs. Mike is not receiving help from a feasibility study in the Department of Defense funding and the NDAA. Mike had to establish his own way of helping himself by creating a very important, incredible organization to help other veterans who also don't receive help. It's called Hero Ag. You see, Mike is a farmer, and he learned to become a farmer because he found that farming was a way that he could heal not only his brain, but he could also heal the pain inside of him that he sustained from serving and fighting in another foreign war, not America's war. What Mike does now is he spends his time rehabbing other veterans who are also injured in all kinds of ways, some of them not visible from our own eyes because their injuries inside their brains. Mike is a great American, and I'm so proud that he lives in my district, and I'm honored and always grateful to visit his farm and do anything I can to help Hero Ag and help the veterans that go there. But our National Defense Authorization Act should be funding for our Department of Defense for our nation's military. And that doesn't have anything to do with another nation. There's a lot of talk in the House today coming from both sides of the aisle, talking about what the NDAA is for. But too much of the time, I'm hearing it talk about a war in Ukraine. And again, I'll remind everyone here, the Ukraine is not the 51st state. Ukraine is another country and another land. And American lives are not being risked. They are not being killed in Ukraine because Ukraine, again, is not part of the United States of America. But our tax dollars come from America. They come from hardworking Americans. And they very much want their money only to be spent for the defense of our border, of our states, and of our national security interest. This is a feasibility study that should not be in our NDAA. This should be in a separate funding bill. Again, just like $300 million going to Ukraine should be in a separate funding bill because it doesn't make sense for the NDAA. This feasibility study for creating a center of excellence in Ukraine should be in a separate funding bill, and that would be the important way to handle it. Now, I'll ask the House today, is it our job to be the world's police? Is it our job to create feasibility studies on how to help injured people all over the world? Because while the NDAA has a proposed center of excellence for Ukraine, the NDAA does not have a proposed center of excellence for countries in Africa that have civil wars going on, where there are people there that are dealing with amputations or brain injuries. This doesn't have a feasibility study to help any other country but Ukraine. And again, I'll reiterate, Ukraine is not the United States of America. I reserve my time.
Thank you. Right. For what purpose does the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition?